The very first scene introduces us to Adventure Bay, where everything takes place in this world. And the very first thing this movie shows is turtles. Ah, look, they're alive and not dead. Beautiful. This is a pro-environment movie, a pro-environmental world showing us the most innocent form. The perfect damsel in distress to pedestal your message, as you're not anti-baby turtles, are you? Well, the Paw Patrol certainly aren't. As in this very first scene, we begin with a big bad evil coming in, Canada. Okay, that's not actually the message, but they have come in a big, bad, evil diesel truck. They're about to run over this turtle. And so who do we call but the Paw Patrol? Well, Mr. Trucker over here is literally holding to the right while crashing to the right because he hasn't got his license revoked yet for some reason. Here they come. The Paw Patrol are all of the emergency services bundled together in one big private company. That's not terrifying at all. Somehow, they defunded the entire police industry in this area, as well as the fire industry. If you have two emergencies at the same time, good luck. Similarly, for whatever reason, these guys aren't just dogs, they are puppies. Barely out of training to walk, let alone training to do their job. They must all be Nepo babies to have been gathered so early. Who hired these people? How did they get these connections, you know? And so they grapple in and save the day. A town also full of adults that have no intention of doing anything responsible and handling emergencies themselves. No, they're just gonna rely on the police state established by just a collection of children. Alrighty, I don't even know who is the villain of this world in that case. How did they obtain these powers? Like, what was going on in this city 5 years ago? Did these puppies and this 10-year-old child overthrow some government state to claim their own power to ride all these vehicles? Also, on a completely different, non-political front, this dog also just sounds like a guy, you know? Like they're all just boys. Anyway, it turns out this big diesel truck was literally just carrying Canadian syrup because Diesel would be too evil to show. And they returned the super innocent turtle to his family. You know, classic media manipulation. They're showcasing to us directly that they're the good side. You're not against baby turtles, are you?
Great work, pups. Another perfect rescue. Ow, ow, ow!
Another perfect rescue? Do they document any of this with paperwork? Do they have failures? I assume if they did, they wouldn't document it. There doesn't seem to be any paperwork in this system. How do we know about when things go wrong, huh? Because it's clear that the Paw Patrol care about their public image. Alright, but moving on, over to scene 3, we then get to see the city, Adventure City, whereby there's a wiener dog who threatens violence over just littering. Now, they're currently standing as just an individual, like some sort of New York civilian, clearly on edge and ready to start a fight at any moment. But they're going to be a future representative at Paw Patrol. They are looking for literal members of the public who have a dominating force against other people, willing to create threats of violence against the general public over something as minimal as littering as a crime. That is our marker for goodness in this world. And this scene is literally meant to establish the wiener dog as a good character that we want to look forward to. And then there's the real politics of this world. Yeah, it turns out there was actually an election in this city, and the winner won by default from a dropout. Hey kids, can you spell democratic corruption? But shoving that potential topic point under the carpet, we're now introduced to Mayor Humdinger. Yeah, how dare this guy use a smokescreen? What we come to learn is Humdinger wants to introduce all sorts of changes to the city, advocating for things that he prefers in his image and things that are not so much in his interest. You know, like any normal politician would do. You elect them and vote for the priorities that they have, hoping they align with yours. However, we are meant to take all of this news of change as a big, bad, terrible thing happening. We are meant to be concerned by any and all changes being introduced to the city. AKA, we are meant to be the conservatives of this world. Change is bad. Remember that, kids? We want everything to stay exactly as it is. The police are private. The fire brigade are private. It's all controlled by a 10-year-old boy. And the political affiliations with the Paw Patrol aren't very well hidden. In the very next scene, we then have this wiener dog character calling the Paw Patrol over the fact that their mayor got elected, to which the boy here, what's his name? Ryder, literally says he's the worst candidate.
Humdinger? He's the worst mayor in the history of mayors.
Aren't you, as a publicly established police institution, meant to stay politically neutral so as to produce the best services to your fellow peers? Because otherwise, this is a slippery slope towards prioritizing only those whose politics you agree with. And also, on another note, this wiener dog character name is literally Liberty. You know, propaganda again for, hey, she's the good guy. Because her name is literally Freedom. Forget the fact that she just threatened a guy on a train for dropping a piece of paper. But you do get to see the terrible excuse of voice acting as a dog.
Okay, I trust you. Ow, ow! Come on! Ow, ow!
Yeah, that ow ow was not much better. Then soon enough, they're all in the van and we come to learn that the child could drive a lorry, apparently. And then they make it into the city. I would assume this is like a new area that you haven't seen in the TV series. I'll get around to watching the TV series one day, but I gotta trade my soul away first. We'll then later on come to learn that there is a weather machine. It inhales clouds and stops bad weather when it's meant to be doing research. Sure. And then we come to see the brand new Paw Patrol headquarters in the city center. And is that not literally just an Eye of Sauron-esque watchtower? Literally a police state iconography. A giant tower overlooking the city. No one can be away from their grasps. Who knows? I mean, for them to know that there are emergencies other than phone calls, I wouldn't be surprised if there's just full-on CCTV camera literally everywhere. Out there for your safety, so that the private police state with their actual political affiliations established, choosing to watch your every move in the name of safety. And that's not even the end of it. You might be wondering, how does some private state like this even afford all of the things that they're doing? They actually establish it as this.
Officially licensed Paw Patrol merchandise. This stuff sells like hotcakes.
This private police state is just selling merch in order to afford their authoritative state. This really is just a capitalist's wet dream, huh? Following that, the Paw Patrol then have to deal with their very first mission, another big bad, the fireworks. Whoa. Establishing once again a little bit of propaganda here that, of course, the puppy dogs that are meant to save people's lives with no training, guidelines, regulations, or anything, they're the reasonable ones, because obviously fireworks, you know, a dog's biggest enemy, those are unreasonable. Even though you can also clearly see in the movie that that was just handled by poor management and poor structure building. I mean, it's to the point it almost looks like this was a sabotage mark. Who left all of these cracks inside of this wooden foundation? Who would ever scratch up a piece of furniture in order to cause damage in the future? I'd never see a dog ever do something like that before. So now suddenly the Paw Patrol do a whole bunch of suiting up moments. And it's so self-serving. You don't need to spend all this time getting into your clothes. You know what fire truck people do in real life when there's an emergency? They go now. They don't do all of this. We're gonna handy-pandy wait for it. We gotta wait for our 3, 2, 1 timer. People are potentially dying in this universe. And here they are, self-serving, putting on their gear, freshly paid by the merch sales they get on their own public image that they care so much about, and not the emergency rescue of the actual general public. And then off they go. Oh, but they don't just go out the front door. No, they give out a bombarding slope that clearly blocks the traffic in a main city center district for total police priority. No rules, of course, of sirens for the people to get out of the way themselves. No, do they have a permit for such gigantic obstructions? Of course not. They don't need to. They are the police. They own the rules. They're not even from this city center. They handle the Bay Area and rarely come to the city for some reason, so I don't know who handles their emergencies. Now they get to do whatever they damn want. And even more so than that, these police have jet planes now. This isn't just a police state. This is more military than ever. When would a police officer ever need a jet? And then, like the totally untrained, inexperienced crew that they are, they get stuck in the city center by a traffic jam. And how do they get out of that situation? Oh, you know, just by breaking the rules of the road again and driving on the pavement, harassing people away. Remember, this is a future Paw Patrol member and expected to be the emblem of good faith. And beyond that, they even end up speeding down these illegal back alley routes. There could easily be people walking. Well, they're dead now. But the camera doesn't want to show you those bits. And so despite the fact that the only real issue here is the fact that there is a fire, They brought not just one dog, you know, the fire marshal. No, everybody's here, even the recycling guy. And even then, in their acts to support each other, they end up getting a little bit in the way of each other and have to shoot each other with water to protect them from the fire, which also is not how fire and water works, but sure, that totally saved him. So that by the end of the sequence, the entire HQ is presumably empty, right? If anybody needs to call for the Paw Patrol now, they can't. They're busy. Better hope no other truck drivers fall out of a bridge at Adventure Bay, you know? And instead of prioritizing, you know, maximum efficiency, emergency services, or getting back to HQ like a real fire team would, no, instead, they end their little shift prioritizing a photo shoot rather than protecting their fellow man. Again, it's all about their public image, and they clearly know how to play the game. They are vastly understaffed, prioritizing narcissism to seem all the more glorious for what they do. And then as the movie moves on, we see a little bit of a news. We see the mayor being very angry about the Paw Patrol. In the night, Chase is very sad and laments in the nighttime. And then in the morning, we come to learn that that wiener dog friend, Liberty, the whole time, is actually completely homeless. They may talk to the local people, but they seem to have the most based opinion about the entire Paw Patrol in this movie.
The newest member of the Paw Patrol, Liberty!
Yeah, right.
And then also, on an entirely different front, we start to see more of the plot with the mayor and the Cloud Machine, and you come to realize this is basically just the plot of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where the machine is going crazy because the mayor won't let it stop. Come on, movie. You can make anything in the world, not an original storyline. And then again, there's another disaster. How interesting. It also almost seems like the Paw Patrol need to feed off of disaster in order to keep themselves afloat and sell more merch and profit. I wouldn't be surprised if they even had political affiliations with Mayor Humdinger to cause these kind of disasters, if they don't already create the disasters themselves, in order to take the glory of solving these disasters by the end of the day anyway. You know, a real syndrome situation. And once they're called to action for a train track that's turned into a bunch of hula hoops, they don't go running off again as per usual. They don't jump immediately into fast to action. No, of course, they're too busy sticking to catchphrases.
Trouble on the double.
When these dogs look into mirrors, they certainly recognize themselves, and they like the sound of their own voices. But now they're here, they're idolized, the public love to see them, want to give their support, and Paw Patrol responds by giving a little bit of their reins to their unauthorized, untrained civilian pseudo-member, who immediately lashes back out at said public audience, unprovoked, unofficial, slapping at the public to stay away.
Stand back! Give us some space!
Kids never meet your fans. They then dangerously use jet power to move a precarious train carriage. Totally not the safest way to handle things. Thank goodness there's no OSHA in this system. As well as illegally dumping cement haphazardly across the road. Sure, it stabilizes the foundation, but also super glues it to be there permanently, because that's totally not a future disaster they want to handle maybe tomorrow or something. Not to mention, because the driver is a damn dog that doesn't have any opposable thumbs, they've dumped it so badly that it covers half the road anyway down there. And there is literally no one else to help. Everyone else just stands around and watches. And then they're not going to show us the end result of that road afterwards either. That's gone. The Paw Patrol hates nothing more in this city than the drivers in the city, apparently. And then we come to the plot point in the middle of this action sequence whereby Chase is saddened to not be getting the glory rather than being genuine about the safety of the public. No, he's just sad he didn't do it because he had a moment of anxiety. Thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. If you haven't already, come subscribe as we're coming back to this old format with a little bit of a spin. Yes, the Terrible series is back, and I thought I'd give it more of a shout with this PNG tuber aesthetic. Let me know what you think. Now, there's still the second half of the movie to go, but if you have any other suggestions of other things you'd like to see me cover like this, of course, let us know in the YouTube comments down below or on our Discord server. Anyway, thank you for making it this far into what is admittedly quite a beefy long video, so I appreciate you very much, and let's get back to the awful world of Paw Patrol propaganda. Not exactly a sentence I was thinking of saying a year ago. And then, taking it even further, he rejects handling a demotion and being put to the sidelines, instead abandoning their post in pure emotion. You are the one police officer in this entire area, apparently, and you're just gonna run away when you get sad? You're not gonna accept not being involved because you have to take on the glory? This is not a police state out for the safety of their fellow people. This is a narcissistic, authoritarian reign that the public can't seem to change or fix. There's no elections here. And even more so than that, when Chase disappears on the street, we come to learn that the pup tag is a tracking collar. Literally constant surveillance over their own staff. Why would they need this? And who else do they use it on? Nobody seems perplexed by the fact that all of these dogs can be permanently tracked. Is then Ryder the real villain of this whole thing, tracking over his dogs? I have no idea, but there's clearly tracking technology, and this is a super surveillance state, so who knows where this can be extrapolated further. From there, we then see Chase as being kidnapped by people in a van, and this singular police officer, the one who would have the most training in anything close to combat and confrontation, is clearly too weak-bodied to handle the strength of pretty normal, if not a little bit weak human beings. Clearly not qualified to the role of his one role in this entire city. Nobody's really safe in this city, and it's only because this is a you-for-everyone kind of movie that we haven't had horrendous crime happening, both from the civilians and the police themselves. And then as one more hint of what's going on at the underlings here, we then come to a shop. It's gonna exposit like where to go next, sure. But if you look in the background, you will see smile for the camera. Oh, okay, great. So there is CCTV confirmed in this world. But then I ask you, where is the camera in this room? Because I don't see it along the ceilings or walls anywhere. This camera is clearly verbally established, but it's hidden from sight. This world doesn't just have the technology for CCTV, it has the technology for hidden CCTV. I certainly didn't know that the dog tags were trackers as well. With the way that the rest of this world works, it seems all but confirmed that everybody's being watched by the dogs of this world. And it's a damn good thing we haven't seen them do anything nefarious yet. Of course, we only get to see them for about 90 minutes. Also, apparently on the economic front, apples cost $5 a bag. Woof. You've also got to ask other questions like, what a strange police uniform that Ryder has. Why does he need full-on leather gloves for his police attire, you know? It does look pseudo-militant when you think about, like, his limbs. It's strange and certainly concerning if someone like that came into your shop, you know? Anyway, they immediately come to the conclusion that the mayor dog-napped Chase. However, they're not told any sort of clues that lead towards the mayor. Ryder just says it. His political bias fully on show in a public space. There are so many legal strikes that this police state is just bombarding through. Clearly there is no police for the police. And that's shown all the more when another interview with the mayor is just completely crashed by their new wiener dog member that apparently has shockingly weak political security for a man that, you know, is very clearly higher ranking to a certain extent. And again, it's just more media bias. What are the public going to see? They're going to see the police dogs doing something to humiliate a political figure they do not agree with. It's all about imagery, and Paw Patrol control every second if they wanted to. They're then dumped back as well at the dog napping kennel, and one of the few insults they actually mention in this movie is just full-on classist one against poor people. And though it doesn't actually feature in this movie, I think somewhere in the TV series, they do also mention the word mongrel against one of the dogs as a rare actual insult, and it's against one of the Paw Patrol members. It's the recycling vehicle dog. As in, literally, the one task that is predominantly handled by working class people. It's not something as highbrow as policing or fire marshal or flight helicopter jet plane person. No, the one dog that represents the working class is laughed at being a mongrel, with a running gag that they never wash. Truly pejorative, classist remarks sent immediately to children, 2 or 3 years old, to subconsciously absorb, whether they realize it or not. And also again, you have Chase worrying the whole time about being a hero, wanting all the glory for himself rather than doing his job properly. And then also, they immediately know that they're there, so they resolve this seed by just full-on demolishing this kennel that did used to be a school, by the way. They don't have any permit, they just have a guy that does demolitions, so there you are. Paw Patrol manifesting their authoritarian state. They could destroy any building they want, nobody can stop them. The only person with a gun in this world is probably Chase, and he is not afraid to use it. They then expose Chase to his direct trauma, untrained in their psychiatric reasonings as all of their other jobs apparently, outright putting him in front of his nightmare completely non-consensually and reminding him of the memory that apparently he was born to be a hero. Is that right? What, was his father a hero before him, controlling the police state and passed it down to his child? Because otherwise, why would he be born a hero? What kind of messaging is that to children? You only get to be special if you were born special, and certainly not a mongrel who's a practical bin man, huh? The mayor then makes an announcement of his giant tower, and the weather machine explodes. By the way, how exactly is this meant to be like the villain of the story? How are the police meant to handle bad weather? I know they control practically everything else in this state, but weather shouldn't really be one of them. And so with the finale confrontation going on, they all go One by one. This is a very inefficient system, guys. Thousands could be dying right now in this gigantic superstorm. But no, we've got to give everyone their moment. The honorary member is then gifted their official title, but she isn't trained and she's not qualified. And the only thing missing, apparently, in order to be a member is a vehicle. That's what you need to be a Paw Patrol. All right, well, anyway, they give her the motorcycle. Presumably, it's paid by taxpayers' money. I assume they pay tax as well as merch. I wouldn't be surprised if they're just double-dipping their profits wherever they can. And does Liberty know how to drive? Well, we're about to bloody well find out. And so now with this major incident, the biggest the Paw Patrol have ever seen, they go into it with no preparation or planning whatsoever. They had all that time to work it out in all of that build-up, but no. And again, there is no backup, no adult assistance. Chase now suddenly has a net. When was that established? Okay, why? What is it normally for? Why would a police officer have a projectile net like that? It doesn't stop cars or anything. It's not like spikes along the road. So what is it for, Chase, huh? What is it? Protest management, I bet? Probably. There's also then another bit where the boat guy is trying to save people stuck in the river, and he just full on crashes through the bridge completely unprovoked. All the more city damage. There is no regard for property damages that they cause. And you know who that's going to cost again? The bloody well taxpayers. Even at their jobs, this Paw Patrol are awful. The honorary member then also commandeers a boat with no license, and it's stealing as well. Can they do that? Apparently, literally in front of our eyes, yes they can. They can commandeer any vehicle they want, and they will, routinely. And also the bulldog steals a toupee. Again, they want it for their looks. All these dogs care about are their public image. And so they just about save the day. Ryder is here with the mayor in his office at the very top of his tower, and he goes to let him down.
Doing what?
Off he goes. I don't even need to tell you why this is incredibly bad and corrupt. A police state member, knowingly not associated with this political figure, knowingly against this political figure, and now also an attempted murder on a political figure. Dropping him at a speed that is a danger to life, and even on the pause, would be a whiplash pacing of stop and start. This is as close as that kid can get on a new movie to a kill count. And then on the other front, you have Chase driving unpermittedly up of a city building against the windows. He does a final jump over a gap, which was totally unnecessary and a risk to life that really wasn't needed, considering Ryder on the other side is still very much alive. And they literally have a flying dog on their team. They do a reunion with the protagonist, Skip, whatever. And then Sky over here, Little Miss Flying, suspiciously the only female cast against all the other male boys until they've now established a second female character down on the ground. And of course, naturally, they're both pink, but that's another thing for another day. How do you destroy the problem of an over-the-top machine going a little haywire due to misuse? Oh, I know. That was not what I meant when I said I knew. Sky literally kamikazes into the machine to stop it from exploding. Once again, no regard for property damage. It's just a means to an end, preferably as destructive as possible. This then also still removes all of the clouds, so that's still an environmental problem. Where the rain clouds needed to come out. Surely it should have been rain is accepted, but no. Paw Patrol apparently agrees just as well that it's better that the world is sunshiny, otherwise the people aren't happy. Little care for the environment in that regard, and obviously the case, because I mean, what are the odds that this is ethically sourced jet fuel anyway? And on top of that, insurance is canon in this world. And so we come to our happy Paw Patrol result. Arresting a political figure, the one that Paw Patrol clearly doesn't agree with. Having full authority over a governmental system. Using a manned drone on a government official specifically, as well as collecting them from a problematic grass point, very similar to an age-old politician of the past. And for the real epilogue happy ending, the Paw Patrol then receive the key to the city. So it goes to a public service industry. Is that not biased and problematic? We don't give the NHS the keys to the city. It should go to a person, not a private company, not a state. They then go on to announce the new members to the media, right back to that classic media manipulation. Get the public on your side and you can do absolutely anything. And you can get them on your side by showing them exactly what you want to show them.
Just yelp for... I thought I had this thing on silent.
What do you mean put it on silent? How do you have the ability to put the emergency services on silent? What? That is madness! And with that, Paw Patrol comes to a close with that classic outro sequence that's probably from the TV series as well. What are the lessons we can brew from this movie? Well, I've kind of just been saying them over and over again. The world is weird, you know? And though there wasn't too much classism going on, there wasn't that mongrel bin dog element because it's the early basic movie that doesn't give him enough screen time, but you do have Liberty the dog, a homeless character, the only other dog that's not part of the Paw Patrol, so maybe there's even like a species thing. They'll only accept dogs in the Paw Patrol regardless of training and experience. But also, this homeless dog, representative of poor people, is violent, aggressive, unregulated, and idolizes the rich, idolizes the established, idolizes the authoritarian state. Really, at the end of the day, all they really want is power. And Paw Patrol gives that to just about anybody, if you fit the bill. Well, that was a fun lens to look into. Was that a bunch of just pointless fun? Was that a loser doing incredibly losery things? Or is it part of a genuine bigger problem that these kind of messagings shouldn't really be able to be extrapolated on a show that kids will be learning how the world works from? I don't know, it's funky. It's always a little bit dicey doing police stories in children's media, and it is a nice message for kids to learn police are the good guys because you want them to be a state of safety for real-life children, and it's a shame that in the real world it often isn't. It then becomes a fine line of how well do you idolize the police, because idolizing a police state, surveilling all the people, then is clearly going too far in a certain direction. I don't know, but I do know overanalyzing this movie was at least a little bit of fun, and I'm gonna call it out at the same time anyway. So, tell me what other movies you think could do with an overanalyzing lens, and with what lens it should be given. Is there more propaganda in other movies? I would love to hear it. Or shout at me to do the sequel if you're really, really interested. Does it get worse? I bet it gets worse. For now, though, I'm gonna end it off here. My name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a little bit.